Right, so today we're going to go through the product itself, which is GovFinance, and that's built in Dynamics 365 Business Central. Okay, just get the next slide. So what I'm going to cover is just to have an overview of all the features that are within GovFinance, and some of which in Business Central as well. We'll talk around the technologies that we use and the reasons for using them. I'll have a brief slide just on security and how we manage that in the cloud, but most of the time will be spent in the demonstration. Following that, we'll have time for Q&A at the end as well. Okay, so first thing, I just want to cover the features that we have within GovFinance in Business Central. So just at a very high level on there, Business Central itself, which is the framework on which we have built GovFinance, at its heart is a finance system, and finance and accounting. So it's what we call an ERP, enterprise resource planning. So it covers every area of the business and all of the standard functionality that you get within Business Central. You will also have access to. Now, what we've actually done is we've tailored it down just to be specific to councils, and we only focus and use the features that you need on a day-to-day basis. So it's very much around budgets, around reserve accounting, and we've also got a module there around compliance and AGAR and the auditing side. Cash management, again, is another important module, so we'll cover that. I'll just look at sales and purchase invoicing as well. I won't talk through this slide in detail, but just to give you an idea, some of the features that you have access to in there, kind of everything from fixed assets, deferrals, integration with banks, as well as customer sales and other features. And as David's mentioned, there's also the additional cloudy apps as well, which integrate together. They're all built within the Microsoft framework as well. You've also got the option to use what they call App Source as well. So it's a good way of extending. There's lots of off-the-shelf apps you can get directly from Microsoft, built by third-party developers that you can add into your system. And they range pricing-wise from free on upwards. There's quite a few options within there. So it's very extensible, as we techies like to say. Essentially, it's easy to customize. So if you have any bespoke requirements, generally they're covered off through these or through customizations. In terms of the technology, so we selected Dynamics 365 Business Central. It's a best of breed solution. It was voted the #1 ERP by Forbes in 2024 this year. And within there, there's basically all of the AI and automation. Microsoft are leading the pack, certainly on this. And I think most people these days have heard of Copilot and what's coming, and that's their business AI solution that you get in all of their packages, and Business Central is no exception. So we use that in GovFinance as well. It is a comprehensive package. There's lots and lots of features, way more than we actually need to use. So we've actually trimmed that down to make it simple and easy to use. It's also easy to onboard users as well. So it's designed to be intuitive. There is teaching within there and access to a lot of learning materials. There's seamless integration with the rest of the Microsoft suite, and it's also secure and cloud-based as well, so access anywhere. So we mentioned there kind of integration, and it's heavily integrated between sort of Microsoft Outlook, Teams, and Excel, which are common business applications that you may well be using already within your council there. So it's a good way of sort of collaborating, and we'll show some features within here as well. We've also got mobile apps as well, so take your council on the go. So wherever you are, you can access your back-end systems through dedicated applications, and it's consistent experience across all of those as well. When we talk about being an integrated stack, so I'm not going to go into any technical detail on here, but essentially you've got a wealth of applications from Microsoft, including kind of their Office, their Microsoft 365, which BC and GovFinance is integrated with. You've also got their Power Platform and Azure as well, that gives you sort of the security and the customization ability. So for kind of a low upfront cost, to get into this platform, you open up a world of possibilities when it comes to technology, just to allow you to adapt in the future, and actually to make the most of this technology that's available today. We also, another differentiation is performance and scale as well. So performance is guaranteed, as is security. That's all covered by the Microsoft service level agreements. You've also got built-in disaster recovery and business continuity and backup policies, as well as enterprise level compliance that you will get through the application. When it comes to security, so it's managed through Azure, through what they call Entra. So if you sign into Microsoft, it will be the same login and the same protocols that you have on there. So we have a multi-layered approach. So obviously there's authentication, so who you are you allowed to access the systems? But then we have the granular level permissions within Business Central as well, within GovFinance. So you can be sure that your data is secure in the cloud and you can manage the access. Okay, so enough of the boring slides and things. Let's move into the actual demonstration and show you some of the application. Okay, so this is a web-based client. So as you can see on here, just logged in through Edge. And if you are using Microsoft 365, you'll kind of be familiar with the general layout in terms of your account on the top and access to all of your other apps from within there. So Business Central will just appear on here, and that is where you will find GovFinance. So when you're logged in, you'll get a custom role center. This is one here, GovFinance, and this has just got all of the activities that I need to do on a day-to-day basis. So it's slimmed down and focused on just the areas that you're going to need within the council. So along the top, we've got finance, cash, sales, purchasing. They're the main areas that we're going to be in on our day-to-day activities. We've also got their links to things like the AGAR returns. We've got project costing within here as well as an asset register. I'll go through some of these today. Just scrolling down, you get kind of insights into key financial measures. You also get things like activities that you need to do. So we call these queues or activities on the main screen. And the idea is they draw your attention to something that's in process. So we've got sales invoices that I'm partway through creating, and also I'm processing some purchase orders and purchase invoices as well. Moving a little bit further down, we've got a link out to our financial dashboard, which is built within Power BI, but it's linked and integrated with Business Central. And I'll show you that in just a second. And we also have the interface into the other applications that you may have access to as well. And it's customizable by the user, these screens as well. So you can personalize any screen just by clicking on settings on there and personalize. And that just allows you to move things around, add things, take them away, and really make it your own. So, okay, so I'm going to start off with the finance section. So I'll kind of move through these in order, I think. And if I go into there, these are the key features within there. So we've got journals, but also the chart of accounts, which kind of underpins everything else. So this is where you see your general ledger accounts down here. We can see any transactions that have been through there. So I've just got an example layout of a chart of accounts on there, and I can see I've got transactions. So one of the beauties of Business Central is your ability to drill through into transactions and see the detail. So if you click on any of these, they're all hyperlinked, and they will actually open the underlying data, and you'll see the source transactions just below here. So whether it's a journal entry or a sales invoice or it's transactions you've imported from your bank, you'll be able to see all of that detail just by clicking through. But what we really use this for is to report our numbers, of course, and that's where the reporting pack comes in as well. So we saw an overview of it just on the main screen on here, but this reporting pack is, as I say, built within Power BI, and we've just got a selection of starter reports, I will say, because you can add to these as well. It's just connecting directly to your data. And it allows you to go through and interrogate. So we tend to put on the dashboards, kind of key information that you might want to see just from the off. So on here, we've just got some variances to budgets, movement of reserves, and some more detail on what those budget variants may be. So as I go through here, we can see there's a bit more of an in-depth dashboard. You can see it's very visual. It's designed to draw the eye, particularly to adverse variances like we see here and here. And you can also kind of interact with it as well. So you can dynamically filter by clicking on a particular period. All of the other graphs and charts will adapt to that. Or you can use the filters down at the bottom. So if I want to swap between different years, I can do it just by clicking there, and it will change all the numbers underneath. So this is like a dashboard, high level, and then as we drill through, we can see we've got more reporting as we go down. So starting off with budgets, this is just looking at it by department, and then we're looking at our income expenditure, comparing that to budget. And then if there is any reserves transfer, we can also see that on there. But what we're looking at is the variances primarily. I've got a nice sort of traffic light system there just to alert me to any that I might want to investigate further. So that's like a summary budget. If I go into this one, I've just got the detailed budget as well. So this is where you can look at individual departments within the council, and then you'll look at the actual cost headings themselves. So we've got an extra level of detail on there, and I can swap between departments and just see how their performance has been against the budget for the year. You also have an AI-driven smart narrative as well on here. So this will, depending what data is underlying that, it looks at your transactions, at things like the prescriptions that are on there and the type of transactions that they are, and it will come up with just a narrative to try and explain that data. So AI is kind of built in right the way across Microsoft. I've then got the usual kind of income statement, balance sheets, reports as well. Again, you can change the time period as well. So if you just want to view it year by year, or in this case, it's month by month, just looking at that fiscal year. Then we've got balance sheets and reserves as well. So on here, I've got my general reserve and the earmarked reserves as well. So the earmarked reserves, I can sort of see the opening balance at the beginning of the transactional year, and any movements that we've had within those reserves. And if I click onto there, I can sort of see these charts adapt as well. But what we want to do is look at some of the detail underneath that. So we've got the reserves detail. This is where we're looking at each individual earmarked reserve, just to see what transactions have been posted through there, if any. So that's all within here. I've just got some new charts that I'm playing about with as well. This one here is a Sankey diagram that's just showing in green on the left-hand side, we've got all the sources of income during the year. And this is broken down into sort of other roads account and presets, or rates as we call them over here. I can then see transfers in and out of reserves to sort of fund the expenditure. And then these flow through the different departments and the different cost heads into where we're actually spending those funds. So it's a good link between revenue and expenses and everything in between. We've also got things like a root cause analysis. So this one here is looking at the expenses during the different years. And then if you click onto here, you can see it will adapt and allow you to sort of drill through and see different detail within those expenses. And as I say, these are all customizable yourselves as well. So think of this as like a starting position, an off-the-shelf solution that gives you the basic reporting that you can then add to with a bit of training as well. And because it's a standard Microsoft product, there's a load of training available to you and your users. Okay, so as well as the reporting pack, there is also built-in reporting. So I'm going back into the Business Central client, and under Finance on here, I've got the Financial Reporting tab. And as you can see on here, there's quite a few that I've set up just as examples. So everything from cash flows to income statements. We've got the reserve summary and funding summary and things like that. So I'll show you an example of those. If I just have a look at the EMR report, and this is basically rendering this report. It's a bit like a pivot table, a bit like an Excel spreadsheet, but from within Business Central. So basically you can choose your date filter. So if I just want, let's say last year, which was 31/12/23, should be able to see some movements on there. Yeah, so I can see here's all my reserves. Here's the transfers in, transfers out, and my closing balance. And if you drill through on these numbers as well, you can again get to the source transactions. So if I scroll across, I should be able to see some numbers. So it's just demo data, so my descriptions aren't very descriptive, but you can see there how easy it is just to drill through. If you want to see it in Excel, you can just go click on there and open in Excel. That basically downloads whatever's on screen in the spreadsheet. You can also share to Teams as well. So if I want to click onto there, I could just send that in a Teams message to somebody else for them to have a look at. So it's designed to be collaborative as well as sort of simple to use. To show an example of another report, perhaps we'll look at the funding summary on there. So this one here is just looking at departments, budgets versus outturn to give us our variance. Okay. As well as on screen, there's printable reports, and you can generally print them to Excel as well if you prefer to do so. So you've got the print buttons on there. So normally you'd go in and just tweak your dates that you want to run these reports from and to. So moving on from the reporting side, we've got budgeting built within as well. So I should have some budgets configured on here. I know 2023 is complete, so I'll go and have a look at that one. Let's just change my date filter back to the right year. Not saying I'm living in the past, but most of the good data is in 2023 in this test system. So yeah, on here we can see a summary of the budget. In this case, just broken down by nominal account, and this is phased per month as well. So you can see there's our budget, and if you drill in, you can see the budget entries. So I've actually got quite a few on here when I brought those in, but you can see the entries from within there. In terms of sort of creating and managing the budgets, so as you're producing them towards the end of the calendar year, ready for the end of the financial year, ready for the new one, you can either do that from within system. So budgets can be entered directly into here. We can use features such as a copy budget function that allows us to copy last year as a starting position. We can then amend in system, but you can also use the import from Excel as well. So you can export a template, complete that template, and then re-import it, and it will bring all your budget numbers in ready for use. Then we've got a phasing tool as well that just allows that to be easily split throughout the various periods in the year. So people tend to vary how they produce budget. Some people like to do it all as one sort of annual amount and then do the phasing. You could do the phasing kind of in the spreadsheet and then just import it how it is. You've got a lot of flexibility really in around what your workflow looks like. Okay, so sticking within finance on there, as well as the reporting, we've got the budgets. Your VAT returns are managed from within here as well. So you have your kind of VAT statements, which would be the GB one, and then your making tax digital sort of VAT submissions, if you do them, are done through this module as well, through VAT returns on there. So a return is created, and then you will send that through to HMRC directly from the system. Also in finance, and finally, we've got the fixed asset module as well. So it's optional whether you use this, but this is basically an asset register. a register of one in this case. So this is where we record all the assets that we have within the council. In this case, I've got a transit ban that I've got on my asset register, and it gives me kind of the value of that. If you drill in, you can see the invoice that we actually procured that asset from as well. If you do depreciation, this will do that for you and allow you to calculate it and post that through. Or alternatively, everything could be expensed as well. The register is really just somewhere to sort of track what assets that you control within the council, with the option to sort of account for them in different ways as well. Okay, so when it comes to year end, we've also got the AGAR returns, which we can access from here. So we'll just go into here. I can see I've got returns in various status here as I've been through and kind of tested. So I can see 2022's year has been submitted, and this year is pending. So I'll just go into that one to show it as an example. So when you're producing a new one, we've just got all of our declarations that we need to fill in. So it will default to your current year or the current year that needs to be done. You then obviously select the relevant form number that it will be on there, and then it's a case of filling in the declarations. There are some tools to assist with that as well. So if you insert default values, it will actually fill in the defaults that you then need to go in and check. So rather than have to go and tick every box, you kind of go in and change any that aren't relevant for the defaults. You then got your various governance statements and the accounting statements as well. So these are calculated directly from the financial accounts. Obviously, you go in and check those, make sure that they are appropriate and you're happy with the numbers. You can then mark that as pending submission, and then when you're happy, you can mark it as submitted once you've sort of printed that and signed it. So at the moment, it's designed to be printed and signed manually, but it's sort of designed with one eye in the future. If we ever get a point where we can make electronic submissions of the AGAR returns, then we'll be well placed to do that from here. So I just make that a little bit bigger so you can see it. So this is just the AGAR return it has produced, ready to be printed and signed by the users on there. And once you have submitted that, you can just mark that submitted. It will give you a message that is going to warn you. It will lock the record for editing, and that's now marked as submitted and sent. Okay, so just moving across, we'll look at the cash management, where we have our sort of bank account management on there. So this is where we manage any receipts from customers or anybody else, any payment journals. So if we're paying suppliers, also our bank accounts, importing statements, and doing the reconciliations of those statements as well. So let's start with bank accounts. I'll show you what that record looks like. Although you won't be in it very often, this screen itself just shows what the current balance is of that particular bank account. And equally, drill in and you'll see transactions on there. So here's everything that's been posted to my bank. And we can manage things like statement imports and reconciliations from there as well. So the bank record itself just records your account details. So sort code, account number. There's also a bit of setup on here as well. So what type of statement do we want to import and export? When it comes to the bank account statements, so we normally start that with a import or a direct connection. There's a couple of options available there, but we pull the transactions from your bank and bring them in to a reconciliation. And you can see on screen here, I've actually got, I think it's the first time we've mentioned AI in the demo. This is where, or one of the first areas where they brought Copilot into Business Central, and that's to aid with the bank reconciliations itself. So you start off with bringing the transactions in. So on the left-hand side, we can see our bank statement lines. On the right-hand side, these are our bank ledger entries from within GovFinance. So when it comes to reconciling, you just go reconcile with Copilot. This will create matches. So basically it looks at both sets of data and creates the matches for them. If it cannot find a match, which does happen, so let's say there is a direct debit payment, nothing is posted in the system, it will then suggest where to post that, and it learns from the history of where you've posted it, and also sort of descriptions on there, amounts, any references that the customer's given. So where AI is a real benefit from here, so any payments that have come into your bank account, you've no control over the references that are used. So traditional sort of bank reconciliations have been problematic, especially where you've not got the best references, let's say, from somebody. So this will kind of cross-reference the data between the two. If it's something that doesn't exist, like I say, it will suggest where to post that, and it actually suggests a journal for you to check and then post to match all your transactions within there. So once the bank reconciliation is complete and everything matches, so obviously it brings in your statement balance there from the document, and it will check that against the transactions we're reconciling. It then posts it in the system as a bank account statement. I should be able to see one I've done earlier here. So this is showing the bank statement that I reconciled last time. So here's my transactions, descriptions, and the balances that I had. If you want to put attachments against that, you can do as well. So if you need further evidence of these bank reconciliations, it can all be stored within the system and then brought up at any time in the future. Sticking with cash management, we've got our cash receipt journals. So it may be we've done it directly from the bank import, so from the transactions that we've downloaded. You can generate and post receipts from everything from customers if it's commercial, or it could be sort of precepts incoming, wherever that cash has come from, it can be posted from there. Alternatively, you can do that through what we call a cash receipt journal. An example of one is here, where you would go in, you specify the customer or the GL account where the transaction needs to go, enter the amounts, and then you just post that through as a journal. The other cash journal is, of course, payment journal, and this is where we pay suppliers. So this is one you likely will use on a regular basis. So this is kind of a multi-stage process within GovFinance. So first thing is to prepare it. So you suggest supplier payments. That will look through all of the invoices that are posted, pull through anything that's due, and then suggests how much to pay. So in this case, it's suggested 4 different suppliers with varying amounts on there. You would then need to go through and obviously check you're happy and there's money in the bank, etc. And then as you go through, you would submit these to the bank. So depending which bank you have, the export will be slightly different. But you do a bank payment export, a BACS export, that then goes to your bank. Then you send the remittances, normally by email. That kind of gets automatically emailed when you complete the transactions, goes through to all the suppliers. And then finally you post it through and it marks all the transactions as paid. So really easy to use. It's kind of an intuitive process to follow on here. So you just suggest. It also does employee payments as well. So if you're reimbursing people expenses, that's why there's 2 separate runs on there. There's various reports as well within here, but you go in, suggest, check, export the bank, and then post the payments and send the remittance. You'll also see on there is a request approval. So this is optional depending on how you choose to approve it. Some people will do it at the point of payment through the banking software, but you can have an additional check as well from within the system here. So whoever is suggesting the payment, you may want somebody else to actually approve that before it can proceed. And that's where you would do it from request approval and send approval request for the journal batch. We will cover that more when we look on purchase invoicing and ordering in a second. So that's our supplier payments. Sticking with suppliers, I'll go through the order process next. So all suppliers are kept as a record within GovFinance. You can see here I've got quite a big list of suppliers, and this is where we have our supplier name, things like contact details, which bank account that we want to pay them into, what their web address is, and anything else that you want to collect against this particular supplier. We also have the things like the payment terms as well. So these will default to whatever your default is, but you can amend them from here. Main thing is kind of contact management, so I can see what their name is and how I get in contact with them if I need to. When it comes to looking at transactions, it's a supplier record where you will go as well. So if you ever get any queries, have we had an invoice, that sort of thing, it's the supplier card that you'll go to, the vendor record. I can see here I've got balance due, another nice little hyperlink. So if I click on that, it'll show me all of the outstanding invoices. So if I have a query from that supplier, I can answer it really quickly. When it comes to orders and invoices, so I don't have to use purchase orders, but I'm going to show that today. You can just post purchase invoices through, depending on what your process is. But as a business control within GovFinance, we would recommend kind of using orders. So we're controlling that spend before the order has been placed. So you create a purchase order within GovFinance, and this just brings you a standard document card on there. So first thing is you choose whoever your supplier is. And we can see there it's defaulted the dates that have come through. I don't need an invoice number yet because this is still an order, but I do need to specify what I want to order on the lines. And I could do sort of a free text order directly to a general ledger account, or in this case, I'm going to use a non-stock item because it's something that I order on a regular basis. So if I needed some copier paper, I can select that item, and it's quicker to enter data in. So you can see it's pulled the description in there, it's pulled the last cost that we paid. So now I just need to put the quantity in that I want to order, and just to check that unit cost as well, because if price has gone up, and at the moment that's probably likely, so let's say it's gone up to £6.20, you can amend it just there on the line. So you can enter as many lines as you need to, but what we're doing is we're raising an order for this supplier to send us some copier paper here. You can see it's also calculated what the VAT should be. That's assuming it's vatable, which again, you can change on the line if it's 0. And then we need to actually send this for approval. So I'm not allowed to just raise an order and send it. I need my boss to approve that. So I'm going to go on request approval and send approval request. Okay, so what we'll see happen there, we'll actually lock the record so I can't make any more changes. And you'll see the status there will change to pending approval. So let's do it. Now that approval can either be sent via email or via Teams, which is what we do more often than not these days. So if I'm the approver, I then get a message in Teams that I have a document that needs to be approved. Let me just see if I can grab my Teams while I'm in a Teams meeting. And let's try and do it without showing all my messages on screen.
Just whilst you're doing that, Phil, we've got about 15 minutes left with a bit of Q&A at the end as well. So, yeah, but keep going. Thanks for the demonstration.
No worries. So yeah, here it's popped up in Teams. I just got a notification, and this is what it comes in as. So it's just saying, "Are you happy to approve this?" I can click on that link, and it will just open the order as well, so I can see the details. And then I either approve, reject, add comments, or I can reassign it. So if it needs to go to somebody else. but let's approve it. Why not? So it all works through Teams. So when this updates, that will come back and it will be released. So I go back in to refresh it. I can see that it's released, and that means I can now send it to the supplier and have them come in. So that is the purchase order process and the council control, the financial control that we have in place there. Then we've got invoicing as well. So a couple of ways of entering invoices. One of which is we just go back into the order itself. So if I then get the invoice in, chances are it'll be in PDF. So first thing I want to do is to actually attach that as a document. So I'd add in the attachment on here and then enter in the invoice number. And you would change the posting date as well to the date of the invoice, and then just check the amount and you can post it this way. If you're just doing straight to invoice, you've also got the option just to put it on as an invoice as well. So if you don't do orders, we can do it that way. It's exactly the same process as we just saw with the order, but you're entering the lines into the invoice instead and posting it there and then. You can still have the approval process on the invoice as well if you wish. When it comes to posting, go into there, click post or post and print, and that then logs the transaction as completed within the system. Okay, then we've got sales and the sales invoicing process. So if we're doing ad hoc sales invoices, we've got the customer record. I'm not going to cover that in detail because we've sort of looked at the vet supplier one anyway. And it's the same sort of thing where you've just got your customer and contact information. You can have multiple contacts. If I look on here, I can see, just find a better example than that. So if I was invoicing for parish hall rental, in this case, so choose the customer, the parish hall rental, and the number of hours, and just the unit price that we want to bill them as well. Difference with this one is we actually send this to the customer. So you go on post and send, and that will raise an invoice and send it out to the customer in their chosen route. So it could be printed and posted out. More commonly these days, though, it's all just emailed, and that will email directly from the system to your customer as well. So nice and simple to enter. Things that I have not covered. So we've got a project costing module as well, just so I can get to that from here, from our council projects. So if there's anything, kind of any big project that you want to capture the cost in detail, the project costing module allows you to set budgets for that particular project and then monitor costs and spend against it. So it posts through to your ledger, so it's just like any other normal transaction, but it means we can add an extra layer of detail on there and track a project plan. We can track our project budget, things like dates, and we can kind of cost resources on there as well. So there is a timesheet module, which ironically enough, I've not got time to show today, but that will record kind of person hours and therefore cost against a project as well. We can see here on the right hand side, you'll get a summary of sort of your budgets and how much actual cost you've got against any particular project that you can monitor through here. So that's all included in standard GovFinance. I think we've covered just about all the functionality that I wanted to within the system. So I'll leave it on screen and open up for any questions.
Yes, hi Phil. I've been trying to answer a few on the way through. A couple at the end, just to clarify, and Francesca, apologies if I might not have got this right. Saying, can this work the other way around? Say, for example, we need to give someone a quote for toilet provisions. Is that for a customer or is that for approval within?
So it's for both. So we need to be able to send. So we have a contractor that cleans our toilets for us. And if someone's got an event, we might have to extend the cleaning or the opening hours and things like that. So essentially, we want to send that information to our contractors, but also send the information to the person whoever's organising the event with a quote rather than an invoice, so they can say whether or not they approve that quote and then send the invoice?
Excellent question. I'm glad you asked. Yes, you can do. You've got the sales quote option within here as well. So hidden it from the menu, where you can add that in as needed to. But if you're doing a sales or indeed purchase quotes as well that we have on there, so if we're creating a new one, let's see if it's set up. So it's just the same as filling that one in. It's a quote rather than an invoice. Now, when we actually go to send it, you can add attachments to that email as well. In fact, if you just want it in the email body, you can just kind of enter it in the text. So you've got a couple of options available, but this will send a quote out rather than an invoice specifically. So there's kind of quotes, sales orders as well, and that leads into a sales invoice. So if they then accepted the quote, you could go ahead and invoice them for it.
So once that quote has been approved, can you then click approved on this and then it will automatically generate the invoice?
Yes, yeah, it copies everything through. So I should be able to create one, assuming it's set up. So let's give it a try. So if we put our customer on there and entered, let's stick with Parish Hall Rental. So let's say 10 hours. You've got this option here to make invoice or make order. So you can skip the order step if you wish. So on here, if they then accept this quote, come back to you and say, yes, I will have that. If you just click on make invoice, it just converts it straight away to an invoice that you then send. So do I want to open it? Yeah, I'm going to open the invoice. And then you can just go ahead and post and send that through directly from there. So kind of 2 clicks from the quote and you've sent the invoice itself.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
So when it comes to sending, so if I just go, now send as a PDF. So you can have it set to just send, if it's set up, of course. More commonly, you get it where emails from the system and it opens up an Outlook dialog within Business Central that you can then go and enter a personalized message. So normally with sort of sales invoices, we use that unless you're doing kind of bulk ones that are going out. So it just allows you to then add what you need to. You can add attachments in there or a personalized message or whatever it might be.
So what would the email address look like? Can we change it to one of ours so it comes straight directly to our Outlook invoice? Or would it be like GovFinance at Tinmouth or something like that?
Yeah, you have a choice. You can set it as like a generic one. So it might say accounts at Tinmouth. Or you can set it to be user contextual as well, as we say, so it'll come from Francesca rather than. And I definitely pronounced that wrong, but
no, it's Francesca. It's an awkward.
Got lucky the first time, but yeah, so you can have it so it'll either send from you or from a generic email address, and normally that varies depending on what you're sending as well. So if you're sending remittances out, normally you want that from a generic email. There might be a group that goes to a number of people as well.
Because we've got a rule of thumb where we don't use our personal emails unless it's still something personal, but we've got our inquiries email address, which is everything gets filtered into, or we've got our finance one, which is finance specific. So I didn't know whether or not it'd be possible for the email to say this has come from finance at Tinmouth.
Yeah, we can set that up, and you can specify that per document as well. So some could come from inquiries, some could come from finance, depending on what it is that you're sending. It's configurable on there. So if you do the finance one, I presume that's an email group, is it, that goes to a number of people that can potentially pick that up?
Yeah,
so that's the typical approach. Yeah, just because if it goes from a person and that person's on holiday when the customer applies, then obviously they might be sat in a queue for a while.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure. The next one is about being able to set up recurring invoices, which I know we can do. Bill,
we can indeed, yeah.
Show that, yeah.
Yeah, so there's I think it's actually called recurring invoice module in there. So if I just search, I should mention as well that the search functionality within GovFinance is very helpful as well. So although I've got limited things on the screen itself, just to make it easy to use and easy to look at, you can search for any area of the system that you have permission to access. So if I say, I think it's recurring sales lines on there, the function here to actually create a recurring sales invoice, so that will run it for the month and produce things like rent invoices, which I think is the example I've got set up. So if we're doing quarterly rent or monthly rent, we have a different recurring sales line type on there. So I'll just have a look, and this will define kind of what it is we're invoicing, how frequently, if there's an end date to that, what currency, all that sort of thing. So you have a template like this, and then that's applied to an individual customer. So if we're doing rent invoices every month for a particular customer, we just go in and define a recurring sales line for that customer. And then you go in and run that process once a month, and it'll create recurring invoices for everybody within that group.
I was just going to pick up as well. Obviously, Phil mentioned being able to integrate with Outlook from within BC. You can also do it the other way around for some functionality. You can access your GovFinance system from within Outlook, so you can import invoices you might have received, or work on documents, or see customer data from within Outlook itself, rather than having to go into the finance system to make things a bit quicker. So yeah, there are loads of these little elements that we can go through in more detail if anybody wants to pick that up on another session.
Yeah, definitely. I think in fact, I've not shown it today, but the sort of integration with we almost take for granted with all the other Windows apps. So for example, if you're doing a journal for month-end adjustments and things like that, we've got the feature to edit in Excel. This just opens that journal up in Excel, allows you to edit it, and then you can just click on publish, and it sends it back in. So if you're kind of doing copying and pasting, or you're maintaining a template, you can use that feature, and I use that a lot, I have to say. It makes things super fast, and who doesn't love Excel? Even though we all want to get rid of it, we all love it at the same time.
Yeah, it's a little bit slicker than just exporting and importing, isn't it? It's actually linked back into BC.
Yeah, that's right. And then we kind of mentioned AI as well. I'll show you this is the preview version, actually. That's why it's all in dollars in the US version. But the latest Copilot that's being rolled out actively at the moment. So you have new Copilot chat within BC. So this allows you to kind of go in and ask questions of your data. It allows you to give support. So it gives some steer there, look things up in the system, and it's fully secure. It's all within your tenant. But then you got the help me to understand as well, and there's guides on how to do things. So if you kind of need to look at how to do year end or something like that, you can ask Copilot now. Equally, when you're looking at things like setup, on fields on there, you can right click them and explain with Copilot, and it comes into the chat there and explains that for you. There's also features for like creating invoices as well, so you can type in what you want to invoice and it will suggest an invoice to make. So it's very early on, I would say, but the pace is staggering actually, and how quickly some of these AI tools are rolling out. So it's kind of watch this space, and by using the Microsoft platform, you're kind of unlocking all of that straight from the off.